For the most part, we like to imagine that our pets are the most beautiful animals in the entire world, especially our cats. With their unique personalities and cuddly natures, our cats seem to master cuteness in a way that other cats don't. But one family in Russia thought about their beloved feline a little differently. When the family adopted Simina as a kitten, she was an energetic little thing that could have easily been mistaken for a dust bunny. As she grew older, though, Simina's appearance changed in a way that horrified nearly everyone who saw her. In Russia, a high school girl named Dasha was getting ready to meet a new addition to her family. Her mother wanted a kitten, and she'd organized a meeting with someone who was trying to find families for a few felines. Right away, though, there was a disagreement. The cat caretaker had two cats up for grabs. Dasha liked one of the cuter kittens, but her mom preferred the other one, a scraggly little thing covered in patches of different colored fur. Dasha's mom opted to bring home her cat of choice, which the family eventually named Simina and whom they dubbed a funny and disheveled tangle of energy. She was a scruffy-looking kitten, but still very cute. That is, until she started growing. As Simina the cat grew older, she shed some hair in places she'd once had in abundance. The family, in a lighthearted sense, felt deceived. Their cat had grown out of her fuzziness and into something a little less, well, cute. And boy, was it bad. Simina grew into such a strange-looking cat that Dasha's guests often asked if she'd found the animal in Chernobyl. They were referring, of course, to the infamous city that was abandoned after a meltdown at the nuclear power plant of the same name in 1986. But in all seriousness, did Simina really look so disastrous that guests in Dasha's home genuinely mistook her for one of the mutated animals living on the site of a nuclear disaster? Well, over 4 years, Simina changed and changed until fur only protruded in bunches from her underbelly like a bad woolen bedskirt. The rest of her coat was pretty much bald, save for a bit of peach fuzz. Still, the family didn't flinch at what their cat, a Sphinx as it turned out, mixed with another breed of cat, had become. To them and to many others, Simina was cute, if not a bit odd-looking. Still, she developed a few weird habits. For one, Simina loved ice cream. Apparently, she didn't mind the terrible stomachaches the dairy-based dessert was liable to give most felines. She, like a handful of other cats, couldn't get enough of it. But that wasn't even her strangest obsession. Apparently, Simina also loved hematogen, a Russian candy bar for children. With her excellent ears, she could hear someone unwrapping a bar on the other side of the apartment. Of course, once this happened, she'd run over for a bite. On most nights, Dasha, now no longer a teenager, would sleep beside her warm, loving kitty, despite her odd looks. No one spent quite as much time with Simina as Dasha did, and for a good reason. Simina at first didn't get along so well with the men of the household. Whenever she saw Dasha's younger brother, she hid, studying him and watching him. She only interacted with men after a great deal of caution. Peculiar as Simina might have been in a lot of ways, she was no different than your typical household tabby. She played with toys, was an avid cuddler, and of course, she ignored attempts to get her attention, unless you had a hematogen. On top of that, Simina was dangerous in a way that only house cats could be. The family admitted she was cute and affectionate one moment, but in an instant, her mood would change and she'd lash out with sharp claws, all with a devious look on her face. That said, caring for Simina did require a bit of additional work for the family. Dasha and her mother had to clean the cat twice per day and wipe gunk out of her eyes. Evidently, she was a dirty cat. Because of all that dirt and gunk, people who didn't know Simina constantly asked if the unique cat came from Chernobyl, or they'd call her something from a nightmare. Those comments never changed how Dasha and her family felt about their cat, though. The family just loved their strange and quirky cat. They loved the way she hunted flies with ruthless abandon. They loved the way she hid in the closet and blended in with old clothes. And Dasha even had a message to fellow cat lovers out there. Dasha wanted the world to know that just because Simina didn't have a certain breed, a pedigree, and let's face it, she wasn't exactly in the running for most beautiful cat, didn't mean she was some kind of monster. Dasha's message continued, and she admitted that it didn't matter what your cat looked like. You should love her like she's the most beautiful on the planet. because rest assured, your little feline will look at you that way. While Dasha probably wasn't telling her friends she had the conventionally best-looking cat out there, at least she had plenty to say about the unique, loving sweetheart who loved to play and cuddle with her like only Simina could. It doesn't matter what her critics say. Simina the cat was seriously cute in more ways than one.
This story was really incredible, but you will like the next one more.
After workers saw someone abandon this crate, they spotted a tiny head moving inside. When someone carried a crate to the Humane Society building, the director thought little of it. Perhaps it contained a donation of food or bedding for the animals. But then she saw movement in the crate and her stomach dropped. Yes, a well-meaning gesture was about to turn potentially deadly. And that situation was exactly what had happened one day in July 2017, when the Florida sun was beating down on towns and cities below. Furthermore, it was a particularly scorching period, with temperatures rising above 100 F in places throughout the state. One such place was New Smyrna Beach, where the Southeast Volusia Humane Society, or SVHS, was going about its day-to-day business. However, perhaps no one could have predicted the upheaval that was about to happen, and it all began with good intentions. Deliveries to the SVHS were nothing unusual, moreover, so when one car pulled up at its entrance, it didn't raise any eyebrows. What was removed from the vehicle certainly did, though. The driver and a passenger had exited the car and were carrying a container between them. Specifically, the object they were holding was a storage tote, a plastic box commonly used for shipping food or goods, and it was actually the executive director of SVHS, Karen Morgan, who noticed something unusual about the scene. To wit, as the tote was brought to the door, something moved inside it. Morgan recounted the events of that day to the dodo, saying, "I looked up and saw this kitten peek his head up from between the two flaps of the tote." She added, and for some reason, they were trying to push the kitten back in. But that wasn't all. There were other cats inside the tote too. The pair went on to tell the Humane Society staff that they had rescued the stray kittens. But although they arguably meant well by bringing the young animals to the SVHS, the lack of ventilation in the container could have proved fatal for the felines. Furthermore, as Morgan explained to the dodo, it wasn't just the tote that was unsuitable for the kittens. They were on black leather or black vinyl in that car, so that's pulling heat down on top of them, she revealed. Those kittens were in direct sunlight. There was nothing protecting them at all, Morgan continued. She went on, "A staff member and myself ran outside quickly. I grabbed the tote from them and came in and opened it. And it turned out that the tote didn't contain just 1 or 2 tiny kittens, but 9 of them. What's more, they were in trouble." So in trying to save the kittens, the Good Samaritans had actually almost killed them. The tiny feline situation certainly wasn't helped by the fact that the tote had no air holes punched in it either, and Morgan revealed to the dodo that the cats had probably spent an hour in there. "It is really meant for shipping. It's not meant for anything that's alive," she explained to the website. When Morgan picked up one of the little kittens, moreover, the heat of it shocked her. In fact, Morgan would go on to compare the feline's body temperatures to that of the warmth of a Coke can left in the front seat of your car in the hot sun. One of them, his little tongue was hanging out, Morgan added. "He was panting in my hands, and I thought he was going to lose consciousness." At that point, the staff realized just how serious the situation had become. 9 tiny lives hung in the balance. Time was therefore of the essence, and so the Humane Society staff dashed over to help the kittens. "We all went into emergency mode," Morgan recalled to the dodo. "We brought in wet towels, water, and milk, anything they might be interested in to get some fluids back into them." But to avoid further problems stemming from rapid changes in temperature, SVHS staff had to be very careful. Indeed, if the kitten's body heat dropped too rapidly, they could be sent into shock. As a result, the little furballs had to be watched over very carefully. Fortunately, though, after the kittens were draped in damp towels, their body temperatures began to slowly decrease. It seemed then that SVHS had reacted in the nick of time to save them from a very nasty fate. There was one further complication, however. The shelter had no room to take the little cats in. As a result, they were placed in the capable care of a foster home provided by Jan Wenger, and she was more than happy to take on the 9 tiny tuxedo kittens. "I knew I didn't want to split them up, so I took all of them together," she told Fox 35 in July 2017. "I brought them into my home last night when they were scared and dirty," Wenger added. "Our first plan of action was to give them a nice bath. I got them cleaned up, fed them, and got them ready for bed. After that, the kittens blossomed and their affectionate personalities began to come out. In addition, they were given individual monikers to mark the start of their new lives. Specifically, Morgan named them after the Little Rock Nine, the Black Arkansas students who famously smashed racial barriers by enrolling at an all-white high school: Ernest, Elizabeth, Jefferson, Terrence, Carlotta, Minnie Jane, Gloria Ray, Thelma, and Melba. We're really grateful to everyone who's rallied behind them," Morgan would later say about the kittens, "because they were really just a few minutes away from expiring, unfortunately in a very excruciating and painful way. It really does take a village," she concluded, "and fortunately, thanks to SVHS, the kittens' future looks bright." Since their story reached social media, meanwhile, the kittens have become known as the Tuxedo Nine and are thriving, as Morgan told media in July 2017. All that remains then is to find them new homes, a process that Morgan has said has already begun.